I've walked the line between worlds and am well versed in death. But I want to have faith in humans. Give me something to believe in. Earth below me, sky above me, fire within me. Brought to you by UPRN Network. I'm Trish Moe, and this is The Missing Piece. Good evening, New Orleans. I'm your host, Trish. This is The Missing Piece, and it is Monday, August 8th. It is the 8/8 Lionsgate portal for August. So that's exciting today. I hope everyone is creating positive manifestations for their future and having a great month so far. I can't believe it's already August and school's about to start. So I want to apologize for, and I've had a rough summer. I have had um, so many, sorry, my daughter is in the background, of course. So distractions. Um, but I've had quite a few distractions this summer, and that's something I wanted to talk about. I have some amazing guests coming up that are booked for the fall season. And I don't know if I've discussed it, um, but I want to say back in April, the end of April, um, and I will write about that I wrote about that on my blog, that I've been talking about and meaning to get finished and everything over these months. Um, I'm human too, so when I'm late or when we have computer glitches, things like that. There's always a reason. There's always a reason for everything. And often, when I started um, practicing my beliefs of as within, so without, or as above, so below, that's a lot to do with it. So because there's glitches in we can't predict when it's kind of like going to work and you run into traffic or where you have certain just things happen, and so that's one of the big things I have changed my perspective about recently and learned so much from it because we're always at the exact place we're meant to be at the exact time. So some of you who are just tuning in, um, we're probably drawn here for a reason, so I appreciate it and welcome. I also want to thank Carnation for sponsoring me and get into my reason. I was going to talk about animals in nature as spirit guides and how changing my perspective on a lot of things like that has absolutely changed my life. Um, I don't know if I've mentioned this one before, but a few years ago, well, either way, as a redhead, I have always, um, when I was younger, I was stung by bees all the time, and I thought that I was just unlucky, or that they were trying to harm me, or um, something of the sort. And I realized that all those times, it wasn't until after I I can I got Lyme disease and I got very sick and everything that um, it was a year or two ago that I saw an article. I read an article about a woman who was diagnosed with terminal Lyme disease. She only had a few weeks to live, and so she went to California, and she was just going to enjoy the last few weeks of her life. She ended up being attacked by killer bees, and um, after what was some of the most, it was like 24 hours of the most pain she had ever experienced in her entire life. Um, she was completely she felt great. She was cured. She had none of the Lyme symptoms. She was absolutely healthy. And the doctors just, they thought it was a miracle. Well, after scientific studies and medical research, they've determined that bee venom is in fact kind sort of a cure to some of the effects of Lyme disease, um, which is profound because, for one, I when I was younger, I wrote a poem about a bee, a honeybee, and because if they sting someone, they die. So when I heard that story, I was like, all this time I thought they were trying to hurt me, and that wasn't the case. They they were possibly extending or saving my life. They sacrificed their own for me, and it wasn't um so if you see it from that point of view instead of everything's out to get you or hurt you, because I was thinking, I've had all of these things. I've had a black widow, a brown recluse bite me, bees, a snake, all kinds of things. And yes, I 100% agree that when animals are aggressive or bite you and such, it's because um, they're sensing a negative frequency or a negative vibration from you. So on the opposite end, they say when you have, um, it's kind of like with demons and evil spirits and all these things. They say a lot of times you'll hear people who have demonic entities or bad spirits or things like that in their houses or environments wherever they're at. They have infestations of certain of wasps or spiders or flies or whatever it might be. Well, those things are there because they absorb the negative energy. So that essentially they're helping the environment, even though and once you get rid of that negativity, they're no longer in that environment. So a lot of times you'll see people. I've known places that have had it has nothing. Okay, well, sometimes it does, but I'm talking about in the event of an entity. Sometimes it doesn't have to do with the people. It could be the cleanest people in the world. Like I said, sometimes absolutely it does. It's because the people, whoever lives there are have trash or food or whatever. But I'm talking about the other times when it's absolutely a negative um, entity, whether it be it doesn't matter, alien, spirit, interdimensional being, whatever. The bugs and insects and rodents and what have you that they thrive off of the negative energy. They thrive off the negative frequency. And that's why they are those lower vibrational insects and such. And that's literally their purpose. So it's kind of that theory that the poison is the cure. Um, and all these times I was thinking that all of these things were trying to hurt me. No, they I mean they actually were trying to heal me. So, um and when you change, if that poison, that venom in my system counteracted the negative effects of the Lyme disease, then it made, that's how the positive that came out of that. So, Um, the other day, I was leaving my house and I was running late, and it was one of those days that everything that could possibly go wrong, and we always I'm getting better. I've worked a lot on this, on trying not to react to certain things and certain situations the way I used to, as far because it's things I can't control. So there's no use exerting that energy with a reaction that I can't control. If it's traffic's taking longer, or for instance, I had gone to the phone store for my cell phone on Saturday, and I was waiting to transfer my phones to a different plan. I had been there the night before for over an hour. They told me I had to go home and get, more verification or whatever for my address and such. And so I came back and I got to the phone store at probably 1 in the afternoon. I'm sorry, there's Hazel. She always makes an appearance on my show. Anyways, um, so ADHD. It's terrible when I get distracted. Um, so there I was at the phone store. I waited. Not only they put me in the queue, they checked me in because they were having some sale that day. I was there for I don't know. I don't know how long it was before I was even seen. And then and I'm thinking I already waited through all this yesterday. All I have to do is give them this paper with my new address. And I waited and I waited. And then they had to call customer service. And then, I had to give them more verification. And I was there. I didn't even leave the store. It was like 4.5 hours. So that was not when I left my house planning on running errands, that was not what I had in mind, and I had other things planned that I had to be at. And so I was going to an event for, for my photography and blog. And I left. I ended up leaving because I didn't even get home until I don't know, almost 5. I was supposed to leave my house by 6 o'clock, and I didn't end up doing that. Well, right when I was walking out the door, um, there's this is another thing. There's been a brown recluse spider um, on my doorway for a very long time. It's been there. She's been there for Sorry. My daughter is so distracting right now. This spider has been there, I want to say for a few weeks. And so spiders are, especially in protective symbolism, that for is as far as spirit guides go, um, especially in paganism and my own beliefs. I was going to look that up for you all. Um, and again, I have been bitten by one of those before, and it's a terrible bite. But um, right as I was walking out the door, the spider, so I also encountered the spider when I came home that day. Like I took close attention. She has her web and everything. I swear it's like Charlotte's Web. So But for some reason, twice on my way out and on my way in, I specifically took notice and I'm having this moment with this spider. Y'all remember my moment with the mouse, right? Okay. So spiders, and that's what I looked up. Spiders teach us to maintain a balance between past, future, physical, spiritual, male, female, everything. And so um, they represent that kind of web of how everything is connected, that connection between um, our entire lives and everyone in it and everything on this earth. And so um, it, every time I would leave, I would think of that kind of protecting, her casting a web of protection over my home and such. And they kind of teach you, coming from New Mexico and the native background of that, they kind of teach you to weave your life in such a way of beauty and balance and patterns and to recognize those patterns and such. And so as soon as I open the door, she runs in my house. And she had never done this before. Um, and I'm like, it was really hot. I was like, I can't let her stay in there. And I was trying to move something out of the way and I accidentally stepped on her. And you know me, I'm seriously over dramatic and everything else, and I was absolutely devastated. And um, but it does have to do with my heart chakra being, open to the empathy and being and feeling insects and other things after a few of my near death experiences. So when she ran in my house and I accidentally stepped on her when I was trying to move a chair to catch her, because you can ask, I mean, my kids, everyone knows I don't kill spiders in my house. I carefully pick them up and put them outside, and you can all say that's ridiculous. But I hope in my next life, if I come back as a spider, something or someone shows me the same mercy. So I killed the spider, and then all of a sudden my daughter thought that her cat ran out the door. So then I'm like, okay, something else. So this is all holding me up about 10, 15 minutes. And as soon as I get on the highway, I've only been on the highway for about 5 minutes. I know I have about an hour drive, and there is a police behind me, and I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, I wasn't even speeding, but I knew that one wasn't after me, actually, because there was a fire truck right behind it, and everybody had to pull over off the highway. They were going somewhere in front of us. And so I passed what looked like a wreck off of an exit, and I'm like, oh well, that's one. That's not a good sign. And so I keep going. I'm about 30 minutes down the road, and there was one of the worst accidents I've seen lately. And it just happened within about 10 minutes. The police had just arrived. This is kind of in the middle of nowhere, going out in western Kansas. There's not a lot there. And it's between towns, and there's not even gas stations or there's the Flint Hills. And so and traffic is backed up, and I saw this vehicle. I always, um as an intuitive medium, I always kind of relive, re-envision the entire event all over again from that energy, especially if it just happened. And so as I got there, um I pictured the entire wreck all over again, and what time it would have been. It's like I was seeing the past energy. And so I it dawned on me all of a sudden, because I kept thinking back about um what um prior to coming upon that. I was like, man, all these things are trying to stop me from walking out the door. And here I just thought they were a burden. I thought it was a burden. That's what we always do. And every time, and then I was thinking back about all the times that this has happened, specifically, all the times that I spilled something on the way out the door, all the times I lost my car keys, all the times that I misplaced my jacket or my purse or debit card, whatever it is, that delayed me from getting in my car and being at a specific place at a specific time. And then I thought that was it. That would have been me. Here I was cursing the spider for running in my house when, I mean, yeah, she could have just wanted to cool off because it was like 105 that day, but she could have been saving my life. She could have purposely created that distraction because it wasn't my time to die. And so, um, they are protectors after all. And had I left 10 minutes prior, I would have been involved in that terrible accident. And so that's another way to change your perspective and how it could change your life. Um, and there's so, especially in this day and age, people are so bitter. And so I have had numerous people, just in the last month, um, approach me and talk about how they absolutely hate their life and such. And I'm trying to share these stories with you all to help you see a different perspective, because the entire world has everyone's had a difficult time in the last few years. And um, when you start to see the bigger picture, that sometimes, they always say things don't happen to you, they happen for you. If you start to see things like that and how it all came together, they weren't stopping you or delaying you from getting somewhere, because everything that is meant to be yours in this lifetime is already written and will always be, even if it's delayed. So that extra 5 minutes that it took you to, catch a spider, or pay attention to your pet, or hug someone you love one more time, is absolutely worth it. And not, um in my opinion, there's absolutely nowhere in this world that I am in such a rush to get to, that it means that it oh my goodness, I am so sorry. That it Sorry, my dog, my dog, my dog. That it ends my life. Nothing is that important. I don't care what it is. Um So when you think about the bigger picture like that, you realize what's important. Your boss is probably going to be, accepting of you being late here, there, whatever. And if not, there's always other jobs that probably wasn't the right one for you. There's there's always more. Um, there's always beauty in this world. There's always hope in that sense. And I don't mean hope in the negative term. Hope, a lot of times I talk about hope being a negative term, because in a sense, when people are waiting for something, because I don't think we should ever wait for things. I don't think we should hold out, or pause our lives out of hope, because that hope might never come. I mean, that reminds me, every time I hear hope, I think of the Titanic, and everybody's just waiting for someone to come save them or rescue them, and no one's coming to save you. You gotta save yourself. So, um, I pay attention every time I see an animal cross my path, or an insect, or a bird, or what have you. I pay attention. If I see a black cat cross the road in front of me, or a cardinal, or cardinals are a symbol of your ancestors, but I also think of it as like a I think of them as almost like a red flag as well. Um, and so my animals, and see, everything is crazy. Nothing went the way I expected it to tonight. And so, and this is why I want you all to know that's why I'm human. My hair is a mess. I got off work late. I had about an hour. I tried to download a pre-recorded show, just being honest, and it didn't work out. It took too long. I think something was wrong with my computer. And now my daughter is not behaving, obviously, and that's real life. Um, and so um, that's one of the things I'm currently I'm like passing notes to her. It reminds me of high school, um, because she's not doing what she was asked. So, anyways, um, so anytime I see animals, anytime I see signs, there could be something on a billboard. There could be an animal on a billboard. There could be an animal on a bus, or a car, or something that you see, and it absolutely means something. There used to be a hawk that would follow me everywhere. Everywhere. I mean, it didn't matter if I was in the country or the city, or out in the middle of nowhere. There was one that would sit on my neighbor's house. There was one that would sit on at the end of my driveway for a long time. But then when I didn't see the actual animal, I would see, um, a bus or a van or something with a hawk on the side of it. And it still means the same thing, even if, a lot of times we expect these symbols to pop up. If you ask the universe for a specific symbol or a sign for something, we're looking for them in a specific way. Um, and it might be in words, it might be in sound, it might be over the radio, it might be um, in a picture, or it might actually be in real life, an actual animal. And so that's where I started getting into paying a lot more attention to spirits when I was working on cold cases. Um, because our interpretation is limited by our perception, if that makes sense. So when I was expecting mediumship to come, for me anyways, to come in the form of very clear messages, that doesn't happen. It's almost like, people speaking different languages, and a lot of people say this about communicating with animals or communicating with spirits or whatever. Not every spirit's going to speak English. If they didn't in their living life, or if they're not even from this planet, of course they can't speak English, of course they have to find a way to communicate in a different fashion. The same thing with animals. I just saw a TikTok or whatever the other day that talked about a dog who, the owners thought it was absolutely uh either deaf, or something had happened behaviorally or mentally, before they had adopted him, because the dog couldn't understand, wouldn't be receptive to anything they said. Well, it turns out that the dogs, some of the people's friends or whatever came over and spoke Spanish around the dog, and the dog understood that. So that just goes to show that we don't all speak the same language. We don't all receive messages the same. We don't all do things the same. And it gets to be especially in this community, people get so judgmental on others on a right or a wrong way to research UFOs, or to communicate with extraterrestrials, or to communicate with spirits, or to interpret tarot cards. They all mean different to everyone. It's just like religions. Everyone interprets religions differently. Everyone, technically, there's billions of different religions in the world. If people really wanted to see things from a different angle, because your own perception of everyone in your life and theirs of you is all different. It's all unique. So when I started doing cold cases, that's one of the things that I paid attention of, and I started logging um, when something like that happens. When I come upon a case or a location that something bad has happened, that I feel like something's trying to communicate with me. I first of all, I go through, kind of like going back to kindergarten, first grade. You go through your five senses. What do I see? What's happening around me? What 100% factual, not an illusion, not a spirit, nothing. What do I see? What cars are there? What people are there? What is the weather like? What um what is in front of me with my actual physical eyes? And then I go on to, what do I smell? What do I hear? What do I hear? Not just hearing, as far as, you can listen to a song hundreds of times and not ever actually hear the message in the lyrics. So, what do I hear, figuratively and literally? The words that are coming out of the radio, the words that are I'm hearing um, people speak around me. Are there animal sounds? Are there birds chirping? Are there, I don't know, do you hear water running? Do you all of those things in a setting. And then I go to obviously, what do I see and hear intuitively? So that would be more your third eye, your um, the unseen. What do you see with your inner vision? What do you hear? Um, and then touch and smell, obviously. Um, so touch could be literally if you touch something. Um, if I touch something often, I will I will I will see everything that has happened in the past with that object. I pick up the energy. Energy never dissipates. It never goes away. Um, and so that's how people get haunted objects from estate sales and guard sales and thrift stores and things like that, because if something incredibly emotional happened, to say, I don't know, a sofa or a bed frame, or but it goes further than that. If you have something that is everything is made by something. So if you have something that is made, handmade, a lot of older furniture, shoot, a lot of furniture nowadays, a lot of furniture is handmade, a lot of home decor, a lot of mirrors, a lot of things like that are handmade. So it also has to do with the person's energy who made them. You know, if you have a product that was made by children, um, child slave labor in a sweatshop somewhere where it's a very negative environment, very negative energy, then that object is going to carry that into your home as well, into your life. And so I've become very conscientious, not only of not wanting to support those types of places. And granted, we don't always know, sometimes it's hard to distinguish where things come from if you buy from um, bigger corporations and such. But also because of that, because that's energy and whatever it is you're bringing into your house. It's kind of like that's also a reason I started making a lot of things this last 2 years or so myself as well, and learning how to do things myself. Um, if you sew your own clothes, there's so much intention and care and love that goes into that. If you cook your own food, we've become so dependent upon food delivery services and um, meal prep places and all this when we could 100% do it ourselves. Because I don't know anyone who, if you tell me that you can recite the last, 4 seasons of Grey's Anatomy or something, but you don't have time to cook your own food or even learn how, then I'm going to laugh at you, because that's absolutely ridiculous. You're choosing not to. Granted, yes, I agree. Like some of those things, the luxuries are nice and everything. And I'm a single mom. You can't tell me how much or how precious and valuable time is. I don't think there's enough time in a day, but things that are important, I make time for, because it's like It's like grandma's cookies. When my grandma made cookies, they were s- they were the best I can remember. They're better than any cookie I'd ever had in my life, for that matter. And anyone else could try to make the same recipe. Anyone else could try to use the same ingredients, and it never ever turned out the same, ever. No one's cookies were as good as my grandma's. And the only difference was her intention when she made them. The love she put into that energy is what was so different and so unique about hers. So, um, you have to, that's with anything. And so, speaking of food on that note and things biting me and such, it's like what you feed feeds you. And That goes for when people are talking about being vegan or vegetarian or things like this, um, or whether you eat, um, grass-fed beef or grain-fed or um, how the chickens were raised. All of that matters because all of that's energy. It's the same as like people don't go out and eat a deer that was hit by a car because the meat would be tainted. You wouldn't want to eat that because there was so much energy with it right before it died. There was a burst of negative energy that would destroy all of the meat, all of the animals. So it's the same concept. Now, if you think about food being your surroundings, food being the people in your life, food being what you're watching on the news or media, what are you feeding your mind? What are you feeding your kids as far as what they hear you say, what they see you do? That's all food literally for thought as well. So after considering all of these things in my life, I've tried to, be more conscientious. I've tried to start planning, which as a personal trainer, obviously meal planning and such. But I did at times because I had two jobs and such, try to cut corners and there have been times I was going to hire somebody to do it for me or things like that. Granted, yes, that's better than eating out, right? And I'm not saying like don't do those things because that's not true. Somebody makes that food as well. But if somebody else is always doing it for you, then you don't have a balance. You're not doing anything for yourself anymore. It's the same as writing. I've talked about this with many authors. Um, Hi, Sonic Mojo. Sorry, I was just looking at the. Um, I've talked about this with many authors because it's like now kids have electronics and computers and everything, and they even have writing programs to write papers for them, and they don't know the pain of handwriting a book report or journals or whatever it was like we had to do back in the day. And they type everything out on the computer, they text everything. Any of my friends when I was little and after I moved towns, I wrote them notes. I hand wrote notes to my family members. I hand wrote notes to class members. I just like I was doing my daughter. It is instilling an intention and energy in that is much more powerful than a keyboard, than an artificial intelligence. And so when I was thinking about all these things, as far as we're taking humanity out of the world and out of humans, and that's the biggest problem. That's that will ultimately be our demise, and everyone has warned us about that. From Tesla to Einstein to Stephen Hawkins to Elon Musk, every single one of them. Um, and I started. Yeah, that's a good point. Um, I started making my own greeting cards for people, making my own ornaments, to send people, making my own birthday presents and Christmas presents and things like that because um, it's unique. You can go anywhere in a store or well, it used to be malls or on Amazon or whatever and find mass marketed products. But something that someone created with their own hands, with their own creativity, with their own style, with their own unique spin on it, is something that cannot be bought. And money eventually is going to become worthless in this world because some of the poorest people in the world have the largest bank accounts. So it, those things don't matter in the grander scheme. Um, they don't matter when you think about the bigger picture. And every day, something profound in my life happens to specifically show me these things that I've just neglected and failed to, because we're not present. You have to put your phone down to be present. You have to turn the TV off to be present. You have to I try to take walks with my kids and stuff and watch the sunset, and I will take my camera occasionally because absolutely love sunsets and sunrises. And but at the same time, we went on a trail yesterday, and then someone I was talking to that asked me how my weekend was, at work today, said, "Oh my gosh, they've been seeing a lot of rattlesnakes on that trail." Well, what's going to happen if you're looking down at your phone and you step on a rattlesnake? Was that whatever you were so intrigued by on your phone, so focused on, more important than your life? Now, granted, going back to the whole poison is the cure thing, yeah, sometimes we do need a catalyst to make us wake up and pay attention. I've had quite a few, and I'm running out of my 9 lives at here. So, so I can't afford, literally, I cannot afford to not be present anymore. Um, and and that goes back to doing things for yourself, doing things. I don't care how many drones or cameras or satellites or whatever we have watching us every single day. None of those are going to tell you and alert you that there is a snake at your feet. Absolutely none of them. So that's my food for thought for the day. And I guess that's a circle of life. All of a sudden, the image of the snake eating its tail, everything comes back around. But we have to unlearn things to relearn them. And I think that's where the point that the world's at right now. Um, we got so far um, away from, we've become so disconnected from who we are. Most people don't even know who they are anymore. I still struggle with that. I'm 41 years old. Um, or what they want. If you ask, I could do a survey right now and ask people what they wanted in life, where they're going in life, what are their goals? And they'll say, I don't know. I don't know. And that's one thing, literally dying a few times has taught me. Now I every day I think, oh my gosh, what was I doing the first 40 years to waste all that time and not pay attention to all this beauty around me and all these people that are so unique and amazing. And I try to go out every day and absorb absolutely all of that. And it's heartbreaking to me because I think of how much time I wasted just doing stuff that was pointless, petty, like anything, just gossip's petty, and everything that you do that doesn't bring peace to your life. Anything that disturbs your peace. And I'm not talking about, yes, I have so many spirits communicate with me, and am often led to murder cases and things like that. I don't consider that something that's like a calling for me because I have a gift in that area. It's a difficult gift, yes. Um, but one nonetheless that I hope to bring justice, to for a greater cause. But I'm talking about the negative things that you can control. You can 100% control. You can control what you say, you can control what you eat, you can control what you do. You can control the actions you take towards making your own world, your own environment a better place. And that goes, back to the wars within. The wars without will never stop until we stop the wars within. So there's nobody that can change that. And it takes discipline, and it takes recoding your brain, literally recoding your brain. But we have the ability to write the story of our lives every single day. So I hope out of the chaos tonight that was prior to my show, I not being of course y'all have heard this forever, and I'm working on it. I promise. I have I'm gonna be more consistent and upgrade my computer system eventually and things like that, to hopefully be able to convey my messages in a better format. And but in the meantime, y'all know, I'm the awkward host. I'm the one that's um, real and raw and myself. And I'm not perfect. I'm not. I don't have a fancy green screen or background. I don't. My makeup's all smeared now and crazy hair. And I did, however, put a blanket over my chair today that my cat, my little kitten, has scratched up. That's another one that was a very symbolic, I guess, animal spirit in my life, because when I got her, as everyone knows, she's the one that it was around Christmas. It was right before, it was the end of November, I believe, and I had just adopted my other, my Bengal. For all of my animals are adopted or rescued from bad situations, and she was crawling around in the bottom of my vehicle on the way home. It was about a 40-minute drive from where. Well, first of all, she literally left her mother, came to come find a human to save my parents' cat. So she came and found my son, took him to my parents' cat, who was laying in a drain culvert by the road. I think he had been, I don't know if he fell like out of the tree or had been hit by a car or something. He had a really badly injured leg, and it looked like he was covered in leaves and dirt and everything. Like he had been laying there for a few days. And she led my son to him. And so my daughter, said, of course, begged me to keep her. And I said, we just adopted another animal and rescued, and I don't want to. It would, I, I want to be able to give them all a lot of attention and a great home and everything. But I said, I will take her to the Humane Society, because it was right before Christmas. I'm like, of course, she'll find a good home. She's young, kitten, cute. Everybody loves that. And on the way home, I'll be damned if she's not, crawling around the bottom of my vehicle. She's tiny at the time. And I get home and pick her up, and there's a sticker on the bottom, on her belly, literally on the bottom, like she's a package, of course. And it says, "Please do not regift me." And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that, universe? Like, what? And I'm sure it's a sticker that came off of one of my kids, like something from school. I don't even know where it came from. Something from school, something. I don't know where this sticker came from. It said, "Please do not regift me." And so I kept her, because then I'm like, I have to, right? I have to keep her. And I was just thinking yesterday how she has absolutely been one of the greatest gifts, because um, she's wild. She's wild, and that's real. That's real. We try to pass off this perfect persona as influencers and online, and people think, all these people become instant famous overnight and all these things happen, and no, it doesn't. Do you know how long I've been working on, my businesses and like my messages and what kind of impression I want to leave on the world? Years, years. You know how many times I've failed? Hundreds, probably. There's so many business ideas and blogs and everything you can imagine, collaborations that have failed. Um, and that's the thing, anything can happen. Anything happens every day. We uh, we live in a way that oh, and here's my crazy cat. Yeah, there she is. Yep. Even after she broke a leg a few weeks after I got her, exactly like the cat that she found in the road and led us to. And here I thought, that was another huge wake up call. And I have a picture. If I could find this picture and show it to you all of her, let me see if it'll allow me to do this. Uh, it's a picture of her sitting on a table because she got her foot caught in my daughter's or in my bed, like my bed frame somehow. I don't know. It was like 6 in the morning. My daughter tried to get her out of the trap. Of course, the trap being the bed. And instead of removing the trap, she tried to remove the cat, and of course that didn't end well. All of a sudden the cat, she latched onto my daughter's finger. Her tooth, obviously her teeth went through. They're like little razor blades for kittens, and it wasn't her fault. I mean, it wasn't either of their fault. It's a learning experience. She bit completely through her finger, and here's my daughter flinging the cat still stuck. My other animals are going crazy. They don't know what to do. There's blood flying everywhere. There's hair flying everywhere. Then there's I get the cat. I move the bed so her foot's unstuck. And here's my daughter standing there just screaming and bleeding all over the place. It was, she thought it was a lot worse, of course, because there was so much blood. Um, and then there's the cat who's got a broken leg. And then there's the other animals who are in shock. And here's me. I was woken up like this. Um, and that's it though. That's life. That's the point of life. We have storms. We have, and I think that that was the whole point of me, in this life, anyways. Doing roller derby and boxing and those things. Those things didn't teach me how to get back up. They didn't even teach me how to fall, for that matter. Anyone can fall. Um, they taught me how to get hit. You know, and to keep going. And so has all of my health problems, and so has all of my failures, and so has all of my, failed relationships or friendships or business, whatever, because that's human. We're so absorbed in this false ideology that with social media and TV and everything else and celebrities and movies, that we're not successful unless we're perfect. And that's not true, because in my personal blog page, which um I restarted and stuff, and I don't I think I only have one subscriber, and that's myself still, because I haven't advertised or anything. I had that whole imposter syndrome of not being confident in myself, and so I haven't put it out there. But as a stranger once told me, if no one knows you exist, then you don't. We make ourselves invisible all the time because we don't think we're good enough, because we think that that's what we've been told, and it's all a projection of everyone else's insecurities. So we're all coming from the same place. And and I even said, I had a video when I started that, like a year or two ago. I said, if I only have one more follower, one more subscriber besides myself. Oh, and that's another thing. I don't, people criticize other people who follow their own channels or blogs or whatever. Y- you should be following, you should be your greatest fan, for that matter. If you're not following yourself, then how do you expect other people to? I'm going to be the first one to like my comments. I'm going to be the first one to like my post, because I had to gather the courage to put it out there, so um my Te Amo Trishmo still only has one follower. But I cannot thank you all enough, as this UPRN and the missing piece and all. The other day I was sitting here thinking, um I'm like, man, I need like a teacher. I need a mentor. I need somebody. Again, getting into the whole victim mode to show me how to live this life, how to do this spiritual thing, how to do this human thing, how to just be. And I was looking at the line of books of the guests I've had on the show or their music or what have you that I've read, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I've had tons of inspiration. I've had tons of teachers. I've had all these people this whole time, including my listeners who support me and now, I hit it was a show in July. I hit like 1.4 million live listeners. And and that's huge. Red- I don't care if it's not on paper, on my Facebook or YouTube likes or whatever, because I don't market that, because I live a life outside of Monday nights. I live a life outside of social media. And so the fact that I reach that many people is profound and absolutely crazy, and I'm so grateful for it. Um, Even if nobody knows about it, you know what I mean? Like, it's not even that. It's the fact that we can connect in that fashion, and so that's amazing. So if any of you have stories, I absolutely love transformational stories, stories of epiphanies. Half my stories come from, like, my epiphanies come from, I don't know, when I'm standing in the shower singing horribly to a song I probably don't know the meaning of the words to. That's when my greatest thoughts come to me, because that's when we're authentically ourselves and we're human. And once you start living that way, I thought with all the diseases and poisonous insects and bug bites and all these things that I've had, those things, they don't affect you. Uh, I don't think anything can affect you if you live your life right. Yes, granted, everyone dies, and that's a circle of life. So that's inevitable. So I don't understand why we're afraid of that, because um, that's just that's part of life. But I think we're more afraid of living, and I guess it's the whole message. Trying to I work on it constantly, trying to be more present. And when you're present and you don't have expectations of anything, of how you're going to receive a message, of if you're going to receive a message, or if whatever you want to happen, if that job's going to happen, if that house, if that whatever is going to come into your life, if you don't have expectations on how you're going to get that, but you just trust that it's going to happen. Kind of like my purse that I lost. I lost everything in my home years ago. And it was, yes, it was something superficial and something materialistic, but I really, really liked it. It was such a cool purse. And then all of a sudden shows up, but with a stranger, for free, for that matter, 4 years later. Different color, granted, but I mean, this was one of those miracles in life that's just, you can't explain it. Um, except that you have to believe, and now science is connecting that bridge between magic and the universe and the unexplained. And so finally, for people in this field, for people in this network, for the people who have been told that we're too much, that our minds don't make sense, that what we see doesn't exist, what we hear doesn't exist, that just means it doesn't exist yet to them. And we were all there at one time. And if you start opening up to that, there's a whole other world out there. So, with that, I'm going to end on that note. I hope everyone has a wonderful week and be safe. I'm actually doing something a little different next week. I'm going to have um, a musician, Britt Stokes, on my show. I'm extremely excited. Gypsy Soul Tour was what I have gone to see him numerous times, and I want all of you to experience the energy he puts out when he sings. It's absolutely phenomenal. I know I can't match it like it is in person, but I'm going to try to come as close as possible by having him um, sing live as well and be able to interview him. So I'm excited about that. I will see you all next week, and thank you for joining. Please, you can. I have my Facebook group, The Missing Piece with Trish Mowell, and then I also have. Gosh, I have my Te Amo Trish Mo as well on YouTube now, which is just random babblings, channelings, whatever. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. Um, so have a good night. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.